Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. So today I have somebody that I'm interested. We started a conversation just before I'm starting to record. I'm like, no, we cannot go anymore. Stop, no more talking until we're recording it, because otherwise I don't want to miss any sentences, any insight, anything from you. So I'm going to introduce you, Drew Deraney, but I need to give a little bit of the profile of Drew, because there is one thing that caught my attention, actually, because I have a data analyst background too. And that's why I'm like, oh my goodness, we got something going on here. Seriously. So you were a capital buyer, purchasing department, and from the University of Medical Center. So it looks like you're all in medical, actually. Then you moved to a data analyst, planning department, which is, again, into the health system. Ooh, we're going to ask you why you went that route. Then you became a patient-centered care specialist, which is awesome, because we need those. And you became a strategic partner at Cooley and Mitchell, not Mitchell, but Mitchell, let's pronounce it right. You became an independent affiliate for, I don't know if I'm going to do the acronym, but ACEA. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I'm sure you're going to let me know in a minute. And I like the title you've got. Move on to one. It's Chief Resilience Officer at Profit Compassion LLC, which is your company.
It is.
And you're going to talk more about this. So, hi, Drew. How are you doing?
I'm well, Emma. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So I have to ask you, the first question I have is, why the medical world? Because you started in the medical world. So why? What inspired you to do that? You wanted to be a doctor? You always wanted to work in a medical field?
Yeah, I think, as a young kid, you learn around you, you end up either wanting to be a doctor or a lawyer, a police officer, all these kind of things. I've always been intrigued with science, and I've always been intrigued with human behavior. So right there was be a doctor. I love children, so I wanted to be a pediatrician. And
Wow.
that's really what my mindset was, even throughout high school. And when I was looking for colleges. So yeah, I've always been interested in, I've always wanted to help people. I remember always telling my dad I want to help people. And when I was going to go into healthcare and psychology, he said, you can still make money and help people. I said, I know. I'll make money. Don't worry about it, Dad. I'm going to, So that's what, yeah. So it's always been an interest in serving people, helping people.
So you became an analyst. So you didn't went to the doctor path, but you still went into the medical path.
I did, yeah, because I entered college with an undeclared major. I had a pre-med concentration, so I wanted to go in undeclared. So I started out, taking biology and still thinking I wanted to go into pre-med, but not really sure. And I mean, the defining moment was I didn't do well in physics. That didn't do well in that. And I also remember on a Thursday night, I looked and I saw all the biology majors sitting in the hallway with their big textbooks studying. And then my roommates were getting ready to go out to the bar. And I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, I have a very important decision to make. Do I sit in the hallway and study biology? Or do I go out? Well, Drew chose to go out. And, so I said, okay, so if I don't go into the hard natural sciences, I still want to go into some type of science. So I chose psychology, and I'm glad I did, because what makes people tick? Why are we who we are? That's what always intrigued me. So I was psychology, and then then I started thinking, do I want to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist? And then if I did go into that, I wanted to be a child psychologist. Well, I had this knack of always taking people's problems home with me. And I knew that if I went professionally in that, I
Oh,
couldn't imagine being a child
yeah.
psychologist, and I wouldn't, if I wasn't able to break that habit and bring it home, I couldn't do it. It also could be me being justifying and talking myself out of things. So I ended up, I remember having lunch with one of my psychology professors, and he asked me a very good question. Drew, what do you want to do in your life after you leave here in college? And I said, I have no idea. Still, after my parents paid all that money for college, still
Yep.
didn't know. And
Hmm.
he said to me, what do you enjoy? I said, I love healthcare, the sciences, and I love
Hmm.
human behavior, and I love numbers. Numbers to me, data tells a story to me.
Yes.
And so he said, have you ever thought of healthcare administration? And I had no idea what he was talking about. I just figured a hospital was doctors and nurses,
Yep.
not really thinking that it's four walls and somebody's got to run it. So
Yep.
I said, I could do that. So he suggested I reach out to the hospitals. So I kind of bypassed human resources. I wrote letters to the presidents of hospitals because at that time there was no internet, no nothing. So I would send letters, and I had stayed on at college, and I worked full time in the psychology department as the laboratory supervisor. So I did research with the professors. I had a couple publications, which is where the data and human behavior really started to collide. And he suggested, this teacher, my mentor, when you write that letter, you're not writing a letter asking for a job. You're writing a letter. You're midway through your master's in applied psychology. Write a letter and tell them you're interested in getting into healthcare administration. You're halfway through your master's.
Hmm.
What would they recommend I should take in courses in the second half of my master's to help me get into healthcare administration? Brilliant, brilliant
It's
strategy.
more than brilliant.
Oh God. And I did that. And
Hmm.
I think I got responses. I had written to presidents at hospitals in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. I got responses from most of them. I ended up actually being invited to one of the hospitals to sit with the CEO, and he recommended, and I hadn't even really learned about this gentleman, but W. Edwards Deming, and process management, and the whole,
Yep.
how
That's awesome.
when he brought it to total quality management to the United States, they turned
Hmm.
him down. We're not interested. So he went out to
Yep.
Japan, and we know
Well,
what happened with the audit
well,
wars.
yeah, oh, yeah, well, Japan, yes, they got all of the processes in place. That's why they're sorry, but constructing one of the best car in the world, and they
Hmm.
don't make mistakes on their lines. If you want a
Right.
faulty part, you have to ask them to make a faulty part.
Exactly.
Actually,
Exactly.
that's
Yep.
how, and they picked up everything was coming from the U.S. After
Yep.
the war, Second War.
Yeah.
So yes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's why they're so good at what they have done.
It's very true, very true. So
Hmm.
I dove headfirst into learning about total, quality management and
Yep.
W. Edwards Deming, and I ended up, when I graduated and got my master's, I did get a job at not the hospital where I got that advice, but I went to
Hmm.
Hackensack University Medical Center, and I started out in purchasing, and for me, it was a lot of numbers, right? You had to
Yep.
negotiate. But what I felt, in order for me to really understand what I'm negotiating, because I didn't want to have the sales reps try to convince me to buy stuff that wasn't needed,
Yep.
I made it a point to reach out to the doctors and the nurses, those people who are going to be using the supplies, using the equipment,
Learn.
and I wanted to understand, like, why,
Hmm.
what do they need in this equipment? So I get them what they need at the best price. And
Hmm.
and I had a lot of pushback. Like, they wanted to know if I was like questioning their practice habits. And I said, no, I'm just curious, because if you tell me it needs to have A, B, and C, and I ask you why, and you tell me how it would benefit the patient by
Yes.
making whatever you do easier and quicker and
Hmm.
still help the patient,
Hmm.
then I'm all for it. And that was really the start of my healthcare career, where I really pushed the envelope, because I always wanted to do the right thing for the patients. And I regardless of what the reaction would be, I could have easily just buy everything they wanted, but I wanted to do the right thing. So,
and I think it's understanding as well, even as a buyer or anyone. And I don't always, that's funny you've done that, because I've done the same thing. That's why it's kind of, that makes me smile, because I'm like,
wow.
oh, this, I'm like, okay, I'm a mini Drew somehow, somewhere over the
go.
rainbow, because being a buyer, and it doesn't matter if it's in medical or anywhere else, it's learning the product as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will buy and have no clue.
Right.
And for me, understanding what I'm buying it, why I'm buying it, what the purpose of it too. And we're not talking on the instrument, we're talking medication as well.
Yeah.
Everything, it brings a deeper knowledge of what you're doing and a better care as well. Because if something is not quite right, or something is out of stock, then you might have another possibility to get something else, might work or not. It all depends, but at least it's the knowledge. Right. Knowledge is the key, and it's how you do a better job as well. And a lot of people, I feel, are not taking advantage of it. They're sitting in their chairs and they say, well, if this is not there, sorry, I cannot order it. It's out of stock. It's like, they don't even do the extra mile that I would have done to, okay, if this doesn't work, where do we have a backup? Do we have somewhere else? Do we have another buyer? A seller that could provide that as well. So it's very interesting you went that route. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So you went from a buyer to a patient care. So,
well, it was interesting how this ended up happening, because I worked 3 years in the purchasing department, and one of my roles was to be the conduit between materials management and the construction department. So I got to sit in the meetings when the hospital was planning new departments, all this stuff. And then when I would learn with the architects and the whole construction, because I would have to procure the equipment. I'm not talking MRIs, all the but in stages. And so I would have to negotiate, like even buy the stuff at a lower price, but have the company hold it for us until it was ready, and really learned a lot about forward thinking and forward planning. And also stuff obviously within a budget. And so what happened was I was exposed to people in the operating room, because we were expanding the OR. And the hospital at that time was building a same-day surgery center, which was relatively new back in the early 90s when I was working there. And after my time working with the director of the OR, she called me and she said, Drew, how would you like to be the first non-nurse in the operating room to be the support services manager? And I'm like, whoa. I would love that.
Yes.
I would love that. So I got to, and Emma, I got to trade in my jacket and tie for scrubs.
I know. It's like you can walk in the hospital and say, you can pretend I'm a doctor.
I would change into scrubs. And I was in my late 20s, and I had 50 some odd people reporting to me, because I was responsible not just for materials manager, the people who bought the supplies and the equipment. I had the equipment technicians. So the people who would be our first line of defense to fix the machines before
calibration
we have to call
and everything else too.
And I had I also had the environmental aides, the people who cleaned and sterilized the operating room between surgical cases.
Wow.
And I love that, because I was the type of manager who I wanted to learn how to do things, the steps, and I wanted to put myself in the shoes of those people. So I would be known to be holding a mop and learning from the environmental aides how to clean an OR, how to sterilize an OR. And that way I also learned what the best type of floor there was, so you didn't have harbored bacteria. And I just learned as much as I could do.
I must be your clone somewhere over the rainbow, because this is exactly how I proceed and how I do things as well. So that's why it's like, isn't it awesome learning all of this? And the most fascinating for me is every time I approach somebody and I learn from them, they're always happy to share. They want people wants to share how they work, how they do these things. And I don't know, it gives a better perspective, and you see the pieces of the puzzle come together, because most people don't understand that. When you work with, and you probably realize that as well, when you work with different departments, different people, they don't know how they interlock together. They have no clue.
Absolutely.
until
Absolutely.
you start to learn from them and see how it affects one, affect the others.
Yeah,
But most of people don't realize that because there is so much in their own silo
it's
world.
true.
And it's like open a little bit and
Hmm.
understand that whatever you do has an effect on everybody, even surgery, even the surgeon, even the
Absolutely.
patient at some level.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a cause and effect.
Yes.
And yeah, and you know, and later on in my career, when I was in patient experience, I did teach just that to the caregivers because each person in the patient experience has an effect on the next experience that patient's going to have. So
Mm-hmm.
I can either set up my colleague for success or failure depending on
Yeah,
how I'm treating that patient.
exactly.
And a lot of people don't think about that. They think
Nope.
about their universe,
Yes.
right? Their
Yes.
little
It's
thing.
mine. I do
Yep.
what I got
Let
to
me do
do,
this.
and that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
And there is
Yeah.
more to it than that.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you must have had a good time, quote unquote, to do that. So why did you left the patient care? Why did you decide to move on? Because it feels like you
Yeah.
went from the healthcare world where obviously,
Yeah.
you did such an amazing job
Yeah. Yeah.
to, I'm going to fast forward a little bit to be where you are today. So why
Yeah.
did you transition from that world to where you are today? What made you
Yeah.
take that
Uh,
decision?
I mean, there was not no one thing that did it, but I do recall at that hospital, my first job, I burned out. I mean, I basically
Yeah.
was 29, 30 years old. You know, hospitals don't close, so
Nope.
work in the operating room. It's a 24/7 operation. So I had to move right next to the hospital in an apartment. And I remember getting calls 2 in the morning to have to go in. I mean, I had an employee who reported to me who was found sleeping in a closet, and he did it numerous times. So this time
Oh,
they decided to let him sleep and call me. And so I was the one to be able to
well,
open
yeah.
the closet door and say, and I had to terminate somebody at 2 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of that was a shock to my system. And you know what? I ended up, you know, being on that management side. I really didn't
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it.
I know.
You know, so I left. And usually what I do or did is when I didn't think about looking for other jobs within that hospital. I was thinking I'm leaving the hospital.
Yep.
So my girlfriend at the time, who ended up soon being my fiance and then my wife and now my ex-wife, which is interesting how things happen.
Yep.
She had a friend who worked for a pharmaceutical company, and
Okay.
so I figured, you know, well, let me go there and manage. Let me be in management in pharmaceuticals. I wouldn't be in the hospital, but I could still do healthcare, still help,
Yeah.
and maybe be in management there, and it'd be different. Well, they had a policy that you couldn't start in management from the outside. You'd have to go through 2 years of sales training and sales job before they could promote you from within. I said, all right, I
Okay.
can suck it up. I can do pharmaceutical sales for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was doing it backwards because all my friends who were in big pharma sales went right from college
Yeah.
into it, right?
Yeah.
I'm here, and while I was at that first hospital, I got my MBA in healthcare administration too. So here I decide all that work, and
Yeah.
I'm going to leave and be a pharmaceutical sales rep,
Yeah. Yeah.
carrying my MBA in healthcare administration. Don't know what I was thinking at that time, but in any event, I did that. Did it for a year, was not my thing. And then I
Mm-hmm.
decided, well, you know, I've already worked in higher education, so that's
Yep.
my not-for-profit non-healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a hospital. That's my not-for-profit healthcare.
Yep.
Then I worked for pharmaceuticals. So that's my for-profit healthcare. The only one left is for-profit
Yeah.
non-healthcare.
Yeah.
So I went to a recruiter and I was hired as a operations coordinator for a broadband wireless telecommunications company. This is back in 1999
Oh, wow.
when broadband wireless, the Bluetooth was
Yeah.
just in the beta stage.
Yes. Yep.
It was a startup company in the US. They're headquartered in Israel. They wanted to start up in the US. It happened to be a town that I lived in. So I started there. I was the 13th person they hired in the US. And then they went publicly traded. So I'm going to these sales meetings on boats in the city, and I mean, like getting stock options. I'm like, wow, this is very different from the hospital area. This is great.
Yes, this is like paradise.
And what was good is, I mean, I was the operations
Yep.
coordinator. So my role in a startup was I was responsible for the warehouse,
Yeah.
all the equipment being shipped in from Israel to the US. So the inventory system that I created in the hospitals, I got to do at the in this sector.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was also responsible for taking the orders from the sales reps for our company and placing the order to Israel.
Okay.
And then I was also responsible for shipping this stuff out to our clients and billing them and being accounts receivable. So I got to see the whole operations, which was awesome to me because I could like get the orders from the sales reps, place the orders, get the stuff in, ship it out. I mean, I was even responsible for charging for shipping. So I learned on the back end how you can make money on shipping. You pay, you upcharge I mean, it's ridiculous, So anyway, so I did that for about a year, and then the market got saturated. Basically, there were too many distributors and sellers and not enough buyers. They started layoffs. And I still remember, during that time, they did hire somebody to head up the warehouse who reported to me. So I remember the president of the company calling me to his office and explaining to me the dire financial straits and that they're going through layoffs. They'll probably have 2 phases of layoffs. And he said, I had a decision to make. Now, put yourself in my shoes. This is the worst. I was probably like 33 years old, whatever. Says to me, you have a choice of either me letting you go right now or the young guy in the warehouse, having him be laid off first. So I'm like a giver, and I'm thinking, oh, this poor guy, he's got a girlfriend, he's young. And meanwhile, I had a pregnant wife at home and I had a mortgage. And I was this close to saying, let me go first. And then I had all these voices on my other shoulder saying, how can you do that? Your wife's pregnant with your first kid. You're 2 years into a marriage. You've got a mortgage. Worst, I mean, I really felt bad. I said, no, him first. And I remember going back to my desk and then seeing this poor guy walk past my desk to the president's office. And I knew it was happening. I'm like, and then 10 minutes later, he walks back. He goes, hey, Drew, and you told me what happened. I said, I'm sorry, man, and hug. But so then about a month later, I couldn't beat them to the punch. I was let go. So I was out of work from August of 2000. And then I had decided I still didn't want to go back to healthcare. And so I was looking at all different stuff, substitute teaching, accounting. I didn't know. I ended up deciding to go back to hospitals because that was my comfort zone. And right before I started to look, then September 11th, 2001 happened when our towers were hit in the city. So then, all bets were off. And that was really the time when I decided really to go full force into healthcare, to be there to help and everything. So it wasn't until March of 2002 that I went back to the hospital industry. And I went back into the OR, back into materials management.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And that was I was there at that hospital for 10 years. And I started out again, I traded the jacket and tie back into scrubs. And then
but is this time okay? So is this time around was slightly different, meaning like, did you get more people to support you on overnight, or were you doing exactly the same thing over again?
It was different. It was in the hospital that my sister was born in. So it was one where I felt much more of a close-knit tie to the community hospital. I went in being responsible for the materials management, and we were built, a brand new same-day surgery center was built. So I was hired and brought in to get the inventory going and really do all the materials management stuff. And so it was different in that respect because I could use my creative juices and how to set up the inventory system. And so it was different in that respect. And also being in same day surgery is very different from being in an operating room. And there in at the hospital, this was an opportunity for me to build something like
Yep.
from ground up. But midway, a position opened up in strategic planning and business development. And also, as a part of being a data analyst, they were just starting up their patient experience program. Because you're talking about the early 2000s when it was just up and coming. So I decided to put the jacket and tie back on, and I was a data analyst doing feasibility studies and profit and loss statements for new programs for the hospital and starting up the patient experience program. So it was about 80% doing strategic planning stuff and 20% patient experience. And the president wanted me to, within 2 years, to really build the patient experience so I could work on that 80% and the planning stuff 20%. So that was what I was charged to do.
Nice. Then what happened?
Well, what happened was I loved the patient experience stuff so much that that I was really gearing towards that. And then my boss at the time, the director, she was recruited by a hospital in Manhattan, very well-known hospital, a New York Presbyterian. She was recruited to be the corporate director of patient experience. And the minute she took that position, it was officially there, I got a phone call.
No, well, why would she left you behind? We don't leave people behind, especially when you have done and developed everything. She is a smart lady.
And I miss her. She was awesome. So she recruited me there, and I was the patient experience specialist for Weill Cornell Medical Center for 3.5 years, which was a wonderful experience. And then New York Presbyterian bought out New York Downtown, which was the hospital by the trade centers, and bought it and renamed it New York Presbyterian Lower Manhattan Hospital. I transferred over there to start up their patient experience program. Was there for 1.5 years, and traveling into Manhattan kind of took its toll on me. And that's where I ended up getting separated with my marriage, and so that all happened. And I wanted to really be closer to my kids. And I had an opportunity to go to a hospital in Rockland County, New York, and be the director of patient experience there. So I took that opportunity back to New Jersey, and I did that for about 1.5 years. And then, I was let go. I reported a HIPAA violation, and I still think that was the reason. 2 weeks later, I was let go.
I'm going to say this. Anyone who reports things, HIPAA or not, retaliation still exists. And I know, and I'm not saying people should not report, because you have experienced that. I have experienced that for 2 years, actually. Over 24 months, I was hunted down. And when I say hunted down, meaning I was reporting things that did not make any sense, and they tried every single day. It was psychological warfare, basically. For over 24 months. And I was by myself, defending myself, even though the worst part was HR knew what was going on. However, because of political things happening, and you had a VP above who was protecting the people who should have been fired, but was protecting them. At the end of the day, it was, you pay the price. When I left over there, I will always remember, because I was going over there every day.
Right.
Making as small as, I did what I call it a sleeping beauty phase, meaning trying to put myself invisible, quiet.
Sure. Yeah.
So the least noises I would do, the better it was. However, because we were in an open space, people were listening next to where I was. They will stand near the wall, the cubicle wall, and listen to the conversation to try to nail me. They tried everything, trust me. It was one after one after one. When I left, I amazed myself, because I left with my head up high. I'm like, I am nothing to be sorry for.
Right.
I knew, because I talked to the HR, and I said, I know. I said, they are protected and you could not do anything. And they looked at me and just shake their heads. They could not say a word. And I was like, I understand, sir. I'm not angry. I said, but watch out for them, because they will never stop what they're doing. What they did to me will do further. And they have done that. I lasted 24 months of attack, trying to nail me on things that never stick, because I never did it.
Right. Absolutely.
It was very difficult. When I left, I said, I'm amazed that I was going over there, not making noise. I never flinched, never blinked, nothing.
Mhm.
I was exhausted at some point. It was exhausting.
It wears you down.
But I was surprised how much resilient I'm like, now I can go anywhere. Trust me, I've done through hell back and forth since I'm a young kid.
Yeah.
But I said that warfare, that psychological warfare did not work. At the end of the day, I'm like, I am as strong than I thought I would ever be. I was shocked for me that I've gone through hell for over 24 months.
Well,
that's the price you pay.
That's how we learn. That's how we learn about ourselves, through adversity, through overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
That's how we learn about who we really are.
When I'm hearing, you can report, and I reported it because they were attacking me. People were incapable to do their jobs. It was terrible.
Yeah.
You need to realize, people, if you are going in there, you're going to be on your own. But just do what is right for you to do and report what you have to report. Retaliation will always come. Even though companies say we don't retaliate, it's a BS, it's a lie, because they will cover themselves no matter what. Yeah. But do what is right. So for me, see, we're, like I said, we're twins. We're clones somehow. We have a very interesting path.
Yeah. The funny part of it is, like, I couldn't get my stuff from my office. I was escorted out, and everything was shipped back to me. Now, 7 weeks later in LinkedIn, I see, please congratulate so-and-so for becoming the director. And it was the person who
did that,
did the infraction, was now had my old job. I was like, but after a while, you get really tired. The closer you move to the top, the more you get in trouble for doing the right thing. And
I know
that's the reason I left the hospital industry.
Well, even if you're not on the top, if you see something, and I wasn't on the top, but I reported it, you pay very, very, it's very dirty and nasty when you do that.
It's a shame, because they say if you see something, say something, right? Yeah. And so that's ingrained in the culture, right? It's only until you say something that you really see
you get the repercussion of it, and it's like, okay, I'm trying to do something good here because something is not right. Yeah. And you pay the price, but you know what? It's not a bad thing, because it led you to where you are today. So
yeah, you know what? I don't regret anything. Yeah. I'm this close to sending a thank you note. I'm not going to.
You should write a blog, and not without giving the thank you notes for those people, but you should write a blog and be thankful for that. For me, even those 24 months, I do know that they probably hit my guts left and right, and they were probably happy at the end of the day. But I believe that they pay a price at the end of the day too, because there was repercussion afterwards, or they found another scapegoat or whatever the deal was. But those people will never go anywhere either, meaning they will never go higher into the organization because they're rotten through the core, and they will stay where they are. For me, it was a way for me, the universe, to kick my ass and say, okay, Ma, you got enough of here. You have nothing to do here anymore. It's time for you to move on. Time to go. But it was very, they tried everything for me to quit, and I never did. I'm like, nope, I'm not quitting, people. And came with the same face, smile every day, even though it was difficult. Absolutely. But that's amazing. Yeah. So after you got let go, what did you do? How was your state of mind at that point? Actually, I'm curious.
I felt relief in my gut and my heart, and I was really upset and torn in my head, because the whole episode kind of challenged me. Should I have done the right thing? And I knew I should, but in my head, I'm like, you know what? If I just let it go, no one would have known. I'd still have my job. And then I thought, you know what? For some reason, I feel relieved. Yeah. Yes, the six-figure salary is now gone. Yeah. But I felt younger and lighter. Yeah. So that's how I initially felt at the time. And I didn't have much time to really overthink like I usually overthink, because in rapid fire, so much happened. Adversity happened after that. Yep. That led me to where I am right now. So yeah, I didn't see what was coming after that job. I was out with job. I thought I could just dictate the rest of my course of my life. Well, the universe dictated what
It's on the way.
happened
Yeah.
next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it
It
just,
was necessary for you to go through that, like I did with me. Sometimes the road are not as pretty than we think they are, but we don't see the light at the end of it. We have no
yeah,
idea, like you said, it's going into the unknown, and we have no idea what's the next move. But
absolutely.
there is a reason things happened, and if you were to stay there, that would have probably make you sick through your stomach because you knew something
Yeah.
happened and your conscience would have reminded you every day. So that would have maybe push you to become sick or something along those
It
lines.
could have been. I would have left. I had already been contacted by recruiters to go to other hospitals. So it was in the back of my mind that if it didn't work there, I'll have another hospital to go
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
But I had already known, since I worked at 4 different hospitals, I had already known they're all the same.
exactly,
You know, it's
exactly.
because they recycle the people. You end up finding people at the
Oh
different.
yeah,
They don't
yeah.
leave the industry. It's like they just keep going. So you're
You
gonna
see
run
the same
into it.
people at the different. Ah, I saw you the last time
Yeah,
over there. Now
yeah.
you're here.
It's
Great.
yeah,
So same
crazy.
people, same circle, and it was time for you to move out of the circle and that monkey and circus and do something brand
Absolutely,
new.
absolutely.
So okay, so after the so for the aftermath, you think about what you're going to do next. Like you said, you had recruiters already contacting you?
Yeah.
Did you took some time off and said, okay, I need to rethink what I'm going to do? Or did you just say, I'm going to pick up the phone and start to call them and see what's next?
Well, I ended up, what my intent was to take a couple weeks off, because I did pursue, recourse. So I was able to get a couple months of pay, additional. So I figured I had time, the money was going to come in of my regular pay, then I can go on Cobra. So I figured I had time to just, and I can go on unemployment, but the unemployment money wasn't good enough. So I knew that I had a time frame where I was going to get my salary and I'd start looking then. The thing is, I didn't even have time to even go through any of that because 10 days later at a therapy session, my son admitted to his therapist they had suicidal ideations and made an attempt, which is more of a cry for help, the night before. So my whole life just shifted into, so we ended up that's what ended up happening 10 days after I lost my job. And he was released back to me 24/7. I was divorced at the time. And I kept the marital home and all 3 kids live with me. So he was back with me and he needed to go to an outpatient residential home to try to heal and to get better. He was only 14, and we couldn't find a bed till beginning of December. So from end of October to beginning of December. So I needed to be with him 24/7. So that answered the why. Why I did the right thing and got let go. It was
and
because
that's a good thing.
Oh my God. I mean, it was a blessing because I needed to be with him.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I was told him my only job as a father is to keep you safe.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
24/7, he was not out of my sight. And and he's doing great now. He's doing and he's going to college in a couple weeks. Thank God he's doing well.
Good.
And then so then at that point I was thinking about what my next move was. And then as my son was up there, my dad unexpectedly got sick and passed away 3 weeks later. Yeah. So my dad passed away January 13th of 2019, and that rocked my world.
Yep.
That's when I always wanted to own my own company. So that was my next step. I was going to start a healthcare consulting company to educate doctors and nurses how to communicate effectively with patients and families to help them
yes,
navigate
please,
that plan
because
of
oh
care.
my goodness, yes.
Well, I remember there was a landmark study back in the 90s to Err is Human, and it said that 90% of medical errors were due to poor communication.
Oh, it's more than poor.
It's so I figured, okay, why don't we enhance the communication to reduce the medical errors,
Exactly.
But when my dad passed away, I gave up my dream. And so I I got a cold call from a company called Career Transitions, and they said, "Do you want to own a company?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Do you want to own a franchise?" I'm like, "Not really, but I'll listen." I said, "I didn't want McDonald's,
Yeah,
or Burger King, They said,
exactly.
"No,
Yep.
there's service oriented ones." So I said, "All right, I'll listen." They introduced me to a franchise advisor. I worked with him. I started work with him actually before my dad got sick. And when
Oh,
my
wow.
dad got sick, we stopped the process.
Yeah.
And then when he passed away, probably took me about 4 weeks to start the process up again.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at 14 different franchises, nothing in healthcare because my ego
No.
was bruised. My ego was
Yeah.
bruised by healthcare. So
Well,
I ended up buying a cost reduction, an expense reduction franchise, business to business. Owned that for
mm-hmm.
about 3+ years, but my heart wasn't in it. And during that time, I met a woman who is an editor, and I started writing a book. So my book's coming out in the fall. It's going to be about overcoming adversity. But
So
I've
see, we're gonna stop here for a sec. Now,
yeah,
this is my excuse.
yeah.
Episode number 2 coming. Mm-hmm. Just before the book is released. So we're gonna have to put a date on. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So we can talk.
absolutely,
We will talk about the book
absolutely,
before the release. There we
yeah.
go.
So when that comes up, but in the meantime, I sold my franchise. I sold the
Mm-hmm.
clients to another franchisee.
Yep.
And I'm putting my entire personal and professional life diving into helping men to support, really to help them overcome adversity in any way, shape, or form, whatever that adversity, because men don't ask for help. I didn't ask for help. It's seen as a weakness for men to ask for help. You got to be strong, suck it up, be a man. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Typical.
So for me, I've been telling my story, what I've told you for about the last year and a half, and men are coming to me, thanking me for telling my story, thanking me for being out there and being vulnerable. And so I'm starting a men's support group, Men Supporting Men Collaboration Tribe. We're launching it on September 15th. I recruited 7 men across the country who I've been networking with, who have gone through amazing tragedies and adversity and have overcome them and are now successful in their life and in business. And they actually are in the business of helping men. So they agreed to be my founding members of this group and help me build this. And I want it to go, it's going to go global. And
Wonderful.
it's going to be a space that's a no judgment zone that men can come in at any stage of their adversity. They may have no adversity, but want to learn how to ask for help and how to find support. Or they may have already overcome something, or they're going to, or in the middle of something, but it's just a place for men to be supported by men with no judgment. And I've got these 7 guys who are experts in their field. So I'm opening up my network and 7 other networks to men who just need a place to be supported. And that's what I'm going to be doing, So
That's pretty powerful. That's totally powerful on this one. It's nice to see there will be a support for men because nothing against women, but I think everybody should be able to be helped, even overcome adversity and diversity, but it's adversity
yeah,
we're talking about.
right,
Everybody should, because it doesn't cross, it doesn't matter what gender you are, how old you are going to face adversity no matter what. This is
right,
part of our life. This is part of what we are learning, life lessons. But it's very challenging to be able to do that, especially when you do it on your own, and have a supporting group, sounding board that will save the life and that will help people, because wherever you have gone through, if you're able to share your story,
yeah,
somebody is going through something similar. So it's good to have somebody else's to hear their story and take a cue from it and being
yeah,
able to move forward and do something with it. So I think it's pretty powerful.
yeah.
So,
Well, too, Emma, is we have to start having the conversation that it's a strength for men to be
and
vulnerable.
it's okay. Yeah.
You can still be strong. You
Yeah.
don't have to be vulnerable and get walked all over. You can
No.
be vulnerable and have some strength.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I'm going to be able to do is not just help men. I'm going to be supporting women who have men in their life, because I've already talked to women who thank me because she's got 2 sons who she wants to be able to help them grow to be strong,
Mm-hmm.
empathic men. She's got to
Exactly.
learn what they need.
Yes.
And women married to men, and women
Mm-hmm.
who have fathers, and women who have brothers. And so I'm not just supporting men,
No,
in
because it's full
essence.
circle,
Yeah, it is. And you
It
can't.
okay, so transformation comes within us, and
Yeah,
helping men will help their entire outside conditions, meaning whomever they are in their lives. It's
right,
like when I talked to another Michael, that you're gonna listen to here
right.
to the conversation.
Yes.
When you do a transformation on yourself, you impact your outer condition, you impact everybody in your life.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's you're helping everybody. It's like the ripple effect. When you throw a stone into the water and you see the ripples,
Ripple
it
effect. Yeah.
touch
Right.
everybody. I
Absolutely.
do something here. Somebody at the end of the earth, on the other side of the earth, will feel the impact one way or the other. And
Absolutely.
that's the same thing here. So for me, what you're doing it is focusing on the men to overcome their adversity, and that will trigger positive changes in their lives
Hmm.
and the life of
Absolutely.
others. So for me, I think
Absolutely.
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it because if I can assist one man to learn something and be able to apply it to improve
Mm-hmm.
his life, then I've done my job. I just want to help one. But like you said, it'll be a pay it forward too, because that man I'll be able to help, hopefully will be able to help his own child, or
Absolutely.
or his relationship with his wife, or his relationship with his father,
Yep.
or his colleagues at work,
Yep.
because you can get adversity at work, right? In
Yes. Oh,
business, right? I
you
mean,
did
I had a little of that. Yeah.
a little.
Yeah.
Well, it's more than adversity by telling the truth and being booted out because you tell the truth. That's adversity in my book. It's the big
Yeah.
no-no
Yeah.
and all of the
Well, but they
no-nos.
said
And
it
I
was.
know.
They said they were just looking to have a leadership change, Emma.
Uh-huh,
It
right.
was. It
Well,
was.
they're never going to say anything else because they know you can be sued.
Yeah,
But
I
they know
know.
the truth. You know the truth.
Yeah.
They cover their tracks the best they can.
That's
It's
right.
typical, but it's okay because
Yeah.
you came through adversity. Like we said, you walk on a fire, and you felt it. You felt everything, but you did not fall in the fire. You
Right.
walked through the fire, so
Hmm.
now you can help somebody else's as well, and that's exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
So to me,
Absolutely.
it's pretty powerful. It's absolutely wonderful for you to have decided to do that after everything you have gone through. It's amazing.
No, thank you, Emma. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Profit Compassion is what you're doing now. It's helping men.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, the play on words is on purpose, because if we are compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
other people profit from that, and we
Yes.
profit from that,
Yes.
right? And vice versa. If someone's compassionate to us, it's the same thing. It's I want that reciprocity.
Yes.
Now, also, profit means this is what I do for a living,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be doing this full time. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm going to get paid for it, but I'm going to
Yes.
take that money and reinvest it into the work I do. And
Yeah.
it's going to give me the ability to pour in all my energy, all my time, and that money back into my family, which will make me a better person, and
Yeah.
back into the business will help others. So that play on word was important
Oh,
with my company.
it totally is, and it's amazing to see this happening right now because we need supporting groups for equally for men and women.
Mhm.
And I think there is less group for men known because of the stigma, the shame people can feel, and it's like no, you should not be feeling ashamed. You should, if you need a support group, take a support group. If you need a coach, go get a coach. That was when I was me. When you're gonna listen to that podcast, like we talked about it, and I listening back this morning when I was coming back home was very interesting because you need to hire a coach who has a coach. If the
Yeah,
guy doesn't have a coach, then you
absolutely.
don't hire that person because they don't believe in
Right.
coaching.
Absolutely.
I have a
Absolutely.
coach.
Yep.
I
I have
help
a coach
other
too. Yeah.
coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we all have a coach. Everybody
Absolutely.
has a coach and should have a coach.
And
It's
should.
not,
Right.
you know. So I
Yeah.
found that amazing to be able to do that for others and
Yeah.
focusing on a man that can help them to live a better life. Why
Right.
not? Because growing in the outer condition, because not everybody had a pretty rosy, pinky life.
Right.
What we have learned and how to overcome adversity and who we are and become the better part of our own self
Right.
comes by peeling those layers. So having the right help to
Yeah.
show them the
Absolutely.
path to show them how, because you can bring the horses to the water, but you can make them drink. But you
Exactly.
need to show them the tools for them to start to do it.
Well, it's true. And you mentioned tools. I ideally, I want to start helping men before they have adversity.
Yes.
And, in my research, I've learned that more than 50% of our belief system is formed by the age of 7 years old.
Oh, right? That's a bad sign.
People who, it could be our parents, our family. And then if you think about it, what we're learning is a compilation of their and our parents' entire life. And they learned stuff when they were 7. So, exactly. And then 90% of our belief systems formed by the age of 18. Oh. That's before we've even seen the world.
Exactly.
Now here's the interesting part with the gender differences with this. So both male and female, 18 years old, 90% of our belief system. Mm-hmm. Now the prefrontal cortex, right? The part of our brain that determines decision making and judgment, matures for females at approximately age 18. So women are in essence aligned belief system, maturity of the decision making part of their brain. Well, males prefrontal cortex doesn't mature until we're 25 to 27 years old.
Yeah, we know.
So basically, when people say women mature quicker than men, well, you have a 7 to 9 year head start on us with the brain. Thank you very much.
I know. I only knew, the funniest part is you say it's so true, because I remember when I was a teen in my 18, when I was 18, 19, we made a comment with my sisters. We only knew 2 guys who were mature enough out of all of the guys. And I'm like, my God, what is wrong with that?
Well, so you have women are in alignment and males are programmed. We're built to make bad decisions at a young age.
Yes.
So that's why I want to be able to start by helping the 40, 50, 60-year-old men work my way back. Because someday I'm going to be speaking at colleges to the 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old men. And you know what? And you love data, 2 more pieces of data. I was talking to my therapist and I told him what I told you about this 7 years and 18. He said, Drew, did you know that 90% of people who have their first panic attack, it happens in their college years? Wow. And I'm thinking, how old are you in your college years? 18 to 21, 22. Yeah. Bingo. Now, think about this. If a woman has her first panic attack in college, she's 17, 18. When does the judgment and decision-making prefrontal cortex mature? About that age. Mm-hmm. And women are programmed, and society reinforces it, to ask each other for help.
Yes.
So you guys you women know how to get down to the root cause and address the root cause. Now, we men, on the other hand,
I'm not built up to do that.
We don't have the darn tool.
No, you don't. It's like asking for directions.
Plus, we're not supposed to ask questions and ask for help. That's not fair. We were built to self-destruct, and that's not fair. So
I love it.
I want to get in. I want to start talking to those high school boys at 14, 15 to say, before all this stuff hits the you-know-what, this is the thing that you don't have yet. And you're not going to have it for another 10 years. So in the meantime, listen to us.
Yeah,
and I mean, you don't know what you don't know, Emma.
No.
Jeez,
Even if you think you know, this is the worst part. Even if you think, because at that age, you're like...
Well, they think they know everything.
I know. That reminds me when I was younger. I wrote a blog about it, actually, stating it, that asking my own self, and I think I knew at that time what I knew, which is nothing compared to what I know today.
Yep.
It's like, because we're pulled between the childhood and the adulthood, this is where we're like in the middle of the chrysalis trying to figure it out, and we want to be adult, we want everything, but we see black and white. We don't see the shade of gray, and life is a shade of gray. It's not black and white. We have this and that, and when they're gonna go to real life, they're gonna understand very quickly. Oh boy, there is some shade that didn't realize exists.
Also, life is backwards. We should be born at age 40, 50.
Yes, agreed.
And then we should go to middle school, high school, college, have, get married, have kids.
I agree. I agree.
Words.
I love it. We are. It's totally backwards. I totally agree with you. I love that conversation. This is so true. But when hormones are kicking in, who gives a crap? Party's coming on.
Exactly.
We're more busy to have a party and having fun than to think.
Well, I thought babies are from storks.
Oh, yes, they do. Just stop back at Target. They have plenty of those.
I didn't know about the birds and these bees. Gee.
What has happened the first time? No, it doesn't. It wasn't in a book. Nobody told me that. Yeah, I know. It's a store. It's just come to the store. I went shopping. I didn't realize what I had in the basket. I love it. But that's so true. But teaching the younger generation, it's got to be a challenge, because for those guys to get it, the tools, they need the tools. They need to be able to, as a parent, and not every parent should be a parent. I'm sorry to say that, because some people don't have the full understanding, to take care. You have to show them, and it's not the school who should teach them and bring them those tools. It should be the parents.
But the parents didn't have the tools, right? So you're like, so how do we educate parents before they become parents?
Well, good luck with that, because at this point it's not.
No, I know. So it's going to be, and I guess my answer is find one person to help.
Yes.
And after you help that person, and that person starts to help one person,
exactly.
And while that person's helping one person, and you're out there helping a second person, and then boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So it's going to take time.
Yes.
But we have to start the conversation, because if the conversation is not started, we
don't go anywhere. We absolutely don't go anywhere. So it will not be for that generation right here, right now, but it will be for the next one to be able to have those tools. Like I said, leadership should be taught at school, and I'm talking kindergarten. Teach leadership. Start to explain to children creativity, being creative, because we are all our own trailblazer and entrepreneurs.
Leadership, personal finance, leadership, how to handle money.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff, how to make decisions, all those should be taught.
And it should be taught at a young age, because you can teach this. I remember, funny, we're going to go to memory lane here for a sec.
Yeah.
When I was in Europe, the first time we had to go to camp, good Lord, hated it, but that's all right. I got sick over there, and I had to go to surgery, which was funny.
Whoa.
Not funny, but yeah. That's what happened when you go. So go on a train, whatever. Over there, what they did, it was over there the first time that I see the concept of a check. So you were writing checks. They show us how to write checks. So, the parents gave you the money to go, whatever, $100, $50, $20. And during your stay, which was a month, which felt like an eternity, actually, they had those little checkbooks, and you used it. Actually. So they started to show you how to use a checkbook.
That's good.
And out of my sisters, I must say, probably my mother never understood why. Every time we went to camp 3 times, 1 in France, 2 in Italy. And she never understood why I always come back with money. My 2 sisters were broke. I always have money back.
I love it.
Do you ever spend money? I'm like, I spent some, but no, I was fine. So I always came back with the money.
That's a great story. You want to hear a funny check? This is a good story. So when I learned how to write a check was in 5th grade, because the middle school I went to, which was the same one my kids went to, they had home economics class.
Nice.
In 5th grade.
Nice.
And half the year was home ec, where you'd learn how to write checks, all like that type.
Yep.
And the last half was cooking and baking and cleaning up after you cook.
I love it.
And now, unfortunately, the school got rid of that program.
And that's too bad.
But I remember the best part was the cooking part. I remember the guys, we got to pick our own groups.
Yeah.
Pretty stupid. Like all the girls pick themselves, right?
Well, yeah.
And the guys by themselves. So I'm with these 3 guys and me.
Yeah.
And we're taking so long to cook. By the time we were just ready to put the stuff in the oven, the class was over. So everybody had to clean up. We were so late The food was finally cooked. We didn't get a chance to eat it. We put all the dirty stuff back away dirty. Like, but the kitchen looked great. And then about an hour later, over the loudspeaker, with Drew Deraney and please come to the principal's office. We were brought back into the home ec kitchen, and the teacher made us open up every cabinet, the whole place, even if the stuff was clean. And we had to clean even the clean stuff and our dirty stuff.
Oh my God,
I will never do that again. And now I teach my kids, you got to wash the darn dishes.
I love it. That's a great way to do it.
Fifth grade. You should all be learning that. Jeez.
I know. Those are the basics.
Yeah.
Those are the basics. And unfortunately, it's not being followed at all. Or, it's like, I'm not the maid, so clean up after yourself.
Well, you made a good point, though, because of the basics. So think about it. If you're building a home, and you don't put those, what are the things that keep everything up? What are they called?
The struts?
The strut, yeah. Let's say you don't put them up and you put something heavier. What happens? Boom.
Yeah.
So if we don't learn the basics, like what we just talked about, and that's what's happening.
I know.
That's what hell's it? It's right there, guys. Jeez.
You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do it, isn't it? But that's called laziness, or that's called.
It is.
I know we learned the hard way. So it was, my parents were children of war, so the life was different. It wasn't again roses and bonbons, and we had to live with their lives. Actually, when you're a child, you're at the mercy of the people who bring you up, and their story and their legacy and what they're going through. But it was a harsh time, but I'm glad in one way we did, because I am self-sufficient and self-reliant, meaning we learned to not only rely on ourselves. And that was what it was where we were living. But it's a good way to learn to live, even if it sounds horrible. It's like, no, it's not. It wasn't pleasant every day. But hey, if my mom was working 70 hours a week, we were dirt poor, and we had to cook. She would prepare some of the food, but we had to cook at the end of the day, and we had to do the dishes, we had to clean up, we had to do everything. But you know what? I can cook anything that I need to cook now. I can pick it up anything from the refrigerator that is left over. I can make a fantastic meal about it. But it's
so when am I being invited over for this fantastic meal?
Well, that sounds good. I don't know. Well, when are you publishing the book? Whenever.
Great. But,
and then I will have to call the cops and kick you out, because generally when I start cooking, nobody wants to leave the house.
If you want me to clean up, I do a good job now. Not like
perfect. So we got a deal. I will make the dinner, and you will clean up afterwards.
I will clean up nicely. Yes, I will.
I love it. We got a deal. But those are the basics. People need to learn that. So I'm glad to hear your story, and I'm glad to hear you're teaching this as well, and you're going to be teaching to people, to young men. And that will impact their lives in a positive way, because you have to learn the basics. That's exciting. And the book coming in October, you said?
It's probably going to be more like November-ish. Maybe it'll be a Christmas gift. I don't know. It was supposed to come out in the spring and didn't happen. So then the summer and it didn't happen. So it's supposed to be the fall. This year. Better be the fall.
It better to be this year, because we're gonna have an episode number 2. So you better tell me the pressure is on you now. I gotta have it
out before episode number 2.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'll tell my editor. I said, you got to get it done. I'm on Emma's Universe, episode number 2.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm being heard over 80 countries around the world. So he better to deliver what he's supposed to do, because we're going to have a riot. We're going to have a riot going on here, and that's not going to be good. It's going to be an international incident.
We don't want World War III. We got to get.
We're already in the middle of World War III with Ukraine and
Russia.
No, we don't want 3.5. We don't want another one.
No more.
No. We don't. We're here for the peace, and
absolutely.
And people moving out of occupied country will be good. That's what I got to say. Supporting Ukraine 100%.
I agree.
So, but that's wonderful. So the book is coming up. So the group is coming up, and how people can contact you?
That's a good question. Right now, my website's under construction, but the website will be www.profitcompassion.com. The best way to reach me is Drew, Drew, at profitcompassion.com.
Okay.
And, I will be having a podcast coming out. It's going to be called, and you'll love this, From Caving In to Crushing It. Men, know your worth, stand your ground.
Can I come and crush your podcast too? Because you said men. So I want to crush it because why not?
Yep.
I want to crush it.
Well, you know what?
In your episodes.
I would love to have you on.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm going to be interviewing people who've gone through adversity over their lives and overcome it and share how you did it to give inspiration and hope to other people. That'll be the focus of my podcast.
You better to bring your Kleenex.
I'm going to bring you 2 boxes. You have
you better
one.
To bring the Kleenex. I'm good. I will not be crying, but I'm going to make you cry.
You're going to make me cry? All right.
I make people cry, so yes.
Well, you know what? I better, because I'm telling men that they can be vulnerable. So I better.
You have to be vulnerable. Okay. People see me as somebody who's like a rock solid. The entire hurricanes, volcanoes can blow up, and I will be fine. But I'm human, and I have the right once in a while to crumble down. And when people see somebody they see them strong, and all of a sudden they see them crying or not in a good place, then they freak out, because for them it's like, no, you can't. I say, yes, I can.
You're right.
There is a human side of me. Yeah. I cannot be the superhero every 5 minutes. I need to be. I
learned that growing up not to, but you know what? I've cried many a time in front of my kids with the whole divorce going on and everything. And tell them, you know what? Dad's human. I'm not perfect. I'm doing the best I can to be strong to help you guys. But
exactly. The only time I saw my mom crying was when I got my car accident, and that was a pretty ugly one. Yeah. And I was at the hospitals, and they were removing the Band-Aid on my hand, and I wasn't allowed to see it. I was underage. I wasn't allowed to see the injuries, and I was looking at my mom, and that was the only time I saw her cry.
Wow.
The only time. And I looked at her like, oh, this is not good. If she's crying, it's not good. And she didn't want to tell me the truth. She didn't want to tell me how bad it was. They even lie at some point, because I almost lost my fingers. It wasn't healing. It was pretty bad. Wow. So, they were not counting on me keeping some of my fingers at all. So, but it was very interesting to see her at that time, that she was human too. But it was kind of freaky, because when you don't see people, it doesn't mean you have to cry every 5 minutes. But if you don't see people with the human side of them, but it's always a rock or somebody that's strong, it's pretty shocking. So that was one of the things I will always remember for the rest of my life. It was her in tears and crying, and I could not see again. I was laying down, and I could not see my hand. Wow. So I did not know in which state it was. And talking about doctor, I like the fact you talked about doctor and how to teach actually doctors to be more compassionate when they're talking. Imagine 16 years old, have no idea, because of the technical part they use actually. So the car crash, and it's probably the only time I'm going to talk about it. Maybe later on I will, but 1985 was a great year. It was a beautiful year, and it was a shitty year at the same times. Yeah. When we lost control of the car, and it flipped over. I was in the back seat. So when we said the dead seat is up front next to the driver, it's not true, people, because he can switch. Flipped over, the window exploded on my side. And luckily, I turned my head inside. Otherwise, I would have been disfigured. All of the basically glasses went into my head, cut the ear at it was not even a centimeter before I lost my ear, because it was all cut. And one of my hand was ejected. So my hand wound up between the top of the car and the street. And for about 60 meters slide. And I pulled my hand, did not realize that one of my fingers, actually, one of the bones, got broken and basically got out. Didn't know. Otherwise, I would have gone on the street and searched for it, but it wasn't the case. So when I looked at my hand, nothing looked bad, did not look crushed or anything like that. It looked okay. I could not see anything wrong with it at all. Then I was missing a bone. And I was sitting down, so I got out underneath of the car. I crawled. Never ask yourself, how do you get out of a car, in the back of a car? Because that was the month before. I'm like, universe, insert me on this. So I'm like, Oh, now I know how to crawl back under,
Oh my
under
God.
a car.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing ever. So everybody got out. I sat down. It was late. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We passed the curfew. It was supposed to be 11. It was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And sitting down next to my sister, and I'm feeling blood. And I looked at my sister. I'm like, oh no, crap, no crap. I said blood. And I thought it was coming from inside of the ears, which I'm looking at her. I'm like, oh my God, it's my brain. And we look at each other. I'm like, this is not good. Actually, it was the side of my, there was the ears actually that was totally cut, which I did not realize either. Well, go through the emergency, worst hospital ever, actually, that I was sent to. That's the worst hospital ever. So the emergency surgery happened only the next day. It was supposed to be noon. It was supposed to be 1 o'clock. It was later. I spent about 5 or 6 hours on the table. I was only, what they call it, the Canadian, which basically they did not put me to sleep completely. It was only my arms that was put to sleep, on nothing else. I was still awake, which was very painful when you're on a cold slab. I'm sorry to say, it's so cold.
Yeah.
No socks, nothing. It was like, oh my God.
Freezing cold. Yeah.
Freezing cold. And they were talking to me as they were doing whatever they were doing. Didn't realize that the guy was his last day at the hospital. The surgeon.
The surgeon.
He massacred my hand.
Leave.
Yes. He massacred my hand on the top of it. They never wanted to admit it, but I knew he did. And they recognized it, but without recognizing it because they wanted that would have been a lawsuit afterwards. Well, that guy, when they removed, the first time when I saw my mom crying, so I could not see the hand. And a week later, I had to go back over there. Well, here's the worst things that you can ever do to a kid. I didn't saw my hand. I didn't know how bad it was. He took my hand, put it on the front of my face, unprepared.
Whoa. He didn't even say, I'm going to show you it now. It might be a little scary.
Nope. You want to talk about being a doctor and do this to a kid?
That's awful.
That was the shock. I realized how bad my hand was because I had no idea because they did not show me it. And it was all banded, so I could not see it. And when they were removing, because I had to go every other day, and it was hours at a time to remove. Oh, it was so painful, all of the band and everything. But they will not show me this. It was very patient, but they did not show me what was. No, it just sticking on in front of me. And I was like,
that's wrong. Wow.
Yeah, that's totally wrong. So I said, you wanted to educate doctors. Doctors should be educated on communicating with people. And when you're talking to any age, even kids, especially, oh, no, we cannot do anything for you. And here we go. I'm like, oh, okay.
Not good.
No. So that was a great summer.
Well, let's hope that doctor's not practicing medicine.
He went to another hospital, was transferred somewhere else. So he probably did worse afterwards, but it was not very pleasant. And I should have gone to an orthopedic surgeon. I did not, and I should have been where I should have been sent in the first place. But
do you have full mobility and everything in the hand?
I have paralysis I lost mobility on the portion of mobility on the hand, and physically, I think I don't have any fingers who doesn't have a scar, and I got surgery on some of them. One of them was supposed to be amputated. I refused to do it. So it was. You will not realize until you look very closely of that. But
that's traumatic.
It's just to share the story of how worse it can get when you talk about medical and doctors who have absolutely no compassion, no empathy. And no understanding. We are not numbers, we're human. We don't need to be cocooned, but we need to be taught in a way that they have compassion and empathy. But you don't stick, you don't show a kid their their damaged hands and just say, no, we cannot do anything for you. I'm like, whoa, okay. That wasn't what I just. Yeah, I kept it to myself. I said, okay, good learning on this one. Yay, thank you, universe. That wasn't good, but Yeah,
jeez. Wow. Sorry you had to go through that.
That's all right. That was part of life. It's just, I don't want compassion when people, I talked about it. The worst part is afterwards, because people want to see. They want to see what it looks like. They want to see. It's like people have a tendency to, like vultures. if you ever notice on a side of the road, if there is an accident, people slow down because they want to
I know.
see.
Yeah, that's the
For me,
rubberneck.
I don't. I'm
No,
like, I don't want to see.
I
I want
know.
to go home. That's not our purview. Well,
Yeah.
this happened to me afterwards because when I was kept on banded for over a month and a half, and it was middle of summer, they gave me the level of antibiotics. They gave it to me because they were afraid nothing was healing, blah, blah, blah. They were afraid of gangrene and whatever the crap was
Yeah.
going on. So
Mhm.
after I got everything removed, I said, my mom wanted to do something like, oh, you're going to wear a protection. I'm like, freak, no. It's like, oh, at the beginning. And then when I got my bandage off, I'm like, it's not happening. Leave my hands alone. I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But the people, the first thing they wanted to see was my hands. The
Unbelievable.
curiosity. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, I am not a zoo here. We're not in a zoo and I'm a monkey here. Just go
really.
away. You really pissed me off and
I
offended
don't blame
me
you.
as a kid. But that's what people have a tendency to do. It's like, well, I want to see the scar. I want to see this. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
We're not exposing here. But that was another thing too. Then I really got irritated on that. It was just like, yes, I have to live with all of this. Just leave me alone. I don't need you to, I want to see because, it's like, oh my God.
Exactly. Yep.
No, but if you can teach, again, if you can have the opportunity to teach doctors, please do, because yikes.
We'll see. With one doctor at a time.
One doctor will make a huge difference because compassion and empathy and way how to communicate with patients.
It's important.
It's very important. And some of those doctors have no clue. No. And I don't care how highly known you are in the world, it doesn't matter. You have to communicate properly. Absolutely. And be respectful. And I don't care if you have a title of doctor, you have a PhD, and you have this and that. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're still human. And we are.
True.
So,
very true.
But that's wonderful. So as you can hear, sorry, and don't cry, people, from me. Don't cry for me, Argentina. We're fine. I don't want compassion and feel sad for me, because that's a story. That's part of the life. It's part of the journey. Yep. I said when that accident happened to me, I made, and that's where you realize that, whoa, you're resilient. I said one thing. I had two options because people were feeling so sorry for me. And I'm like, I'm not a victim. What is wrong with you? Or you become a victim because you want to be babysit, or you make the decision. And I said to myself, I said, Emma, there is people in the world, they're in a worse condition than you, and they do better than you. So why don't you shut up and get going? And that was my motto since the beginning. So I never fall into the trap of my head. I'm like, no. Yeah. I was cleaning up. I came back after surgery. I came back the next day at home. I was washing the floor. I was doing everything like normal. I did not want it to be treated as handicap or as more special or this and that. Yeah. Think about the people who are worse and they don't complain and they're enjoying their life. So for me, it was my motto.
Amazing. Right. Good for you. Good for you.
So no sympathy for what happened to me, because that's what happened and that's life. And that's it. To live with it.
I have no sympathy for you.
Good. Thank you. I don't want people to cry over it, but it showed the resilience, and it shows that, through adversity, move forward, do something that don't fall into the trap of being a victim. So I love the fact you're going to do a podcast about adversity and really show people we're not victims. This is life lessons. For me, those were the life lessons where I had to relearn everything from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the ones that you're like, okay, I had this, I had that. Well, there is more, but who cares? But it's how to be resilient and just said, okay, let's do something else. Let's improvise. So I'm happy you're going to do a podcast like that. That I would be more than happy to be there. As I said, bring the Kleenex, because you're going to cry, people. I'm going to make you cry. But I'm going to inspire you too.
Yes, you are going to inspire. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, do you have any word of insight or advice you would like to give to the listeners before we close the show?
Only that, regardless of your gender, ask questions, ask for help. Most important thing, though, ask the right people for help. If there's one thing I've learned is the worst advice we can get is bad advice, and bad advice usually is free. Yes. So, when you're going to ask loved ones about taking a risk and you ask them what they think, They're going to tell you no because they're looking out for you, but then you're not following your dreams. So if you want to do something, talk to somebody who's already succeeded in that and ask them how they did it and learn from them and then move forward. That's probably the best advice I could give.
I think that's one of the most powerful one, and I'm glad it came at the end of this session with us, that conversation, because this is what people should take away from this entire conversation and some other, insight we did. But I think this one is the most powerful one because advice is free, or unwanted advice, because a lot of people want to give advices even if they're not invited, which is even worse.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we're accountable for our own actions. Mm-hmm. So if you take a wrong advice, don't blame the people who give it to you.
Yep. We all have a choice. We have a choice.
I've done the wrong too. I'm telling you. And I knew I was taking the wrong one, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, yep, it's on you, Emma, because you should have listened. You should have known better. But we all learn our own life lessons. So thank you so much. And again, Drew will be back in, I would say, not next month, but in October, the beginning probably of October. We're going to figure out something. Okay. And oh yes, you are coming back, and the book is better to be ready to be printed. You have no choice. I'm putting you on a deadline right now. I'm telling you right now. I like to challenge people. This is what I love to do the most.
Yeah,
so
I can feel it. Yeah.
The book, we should have at least a cover going on, and we should have a deadline when it's going to be released. No choice.
All right, I will do it.
Fabulous. So thank you so much for today, Drew, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
And
we'll talk to you in October for your new book.
Great. Thanks so much, Emma. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Bye.
Emma's Universe Podcast.